This is an interesting question because nobody talks about it. I think the first thing that really struck me was how differently people approached to me when I started curating this festival. And that I thought, this is so weird. This is so weird because all of a sudden so before as a producer or before as somebody who works in the Tanzbüro, you are a person of, let's say, minor importance, and then you start to be a presenter of some kind, and all of a sudden you are looked at completely differently from colleagues, from other presenters, and then also from artists, and that was weird. I found that really weird, and then I try to have that in mind when I talk to people, that it's always in a way by accident who is in which position, or that it could be the other way around. And then when you become successful in what you do, then there are these moments when I feel this, oh, now I'm flattered, or now I feel that I did so great, and then be careful. It does something to you, and when you get up, and this is something that I can observe and with other people as well. When you get up and within these hierarchies, the people on top are not criticized that much. The people on top, because there are not so many people around them who dare to criticize. And so you think you're doing great because everybody just says the positive things and not the negative. And that spoils the character, I think, honestly. And so you have to be careful about that. What I see for years and years and years are that the artists are not so much involved in the political work. And when you ask them, you get different answers. So some say it does not interest me, others say I don't have time, and others say I cannot do that for whatever reason, or I don't want to do that. But I think I can't judge on that, or it's not my part to. I think it would be better if more of them would be more politically active. Yeah, and sometimes when you're a politically active person, sometimes you have the feeling, why am I doing this? I mean, if they don't care, why should I do this for them? And so this is maybe then simply the consequence. So maybe things do not change that much if people do not give enough energy into it.
And in your personal case, how would you define this motivation of being engaged in this cultural politics? What was your drive? What was for you kind of turning you on to this?
Because I really had the feeling it's necessary to do it, and sometimes it was also fun to do it because I met people otherwise I wouldn't have met, and I learned about how it works, how our system works, and how politics are working, and I didn't know that before. And so it was also, for me as a person, it helped me understand the world, and it helped me to influence it at least a little bit in a direction which I think it should go. On the one hand, it's the sheer facts that emerging choreographers have to know how does the funding system work, and how would they write an application, and how would they write a calculation for a project. And so this is on the one hand there's the facts, and on the other hand I think it's really important also to reflect on what we are doing, and to reflect a little bit on the political conditions. This is it. How the political conditions influence your work, and that you have to find your way in it. So I think one of I discuss a lot these questions, or I try to encourage them to find their own individual way in coping with things, and not to think this is how the system works and so I have to adapt it. But I think there are many ways to cope with the system and to find your individual way, and to make the decision of this is what I'm willing to do in order to realize my work and to get my next project funded, or to be presented, or maybe these are things that I definitely don't want to do. And when people, the young ones often have the feeling, do I have to sell myself? Because I have to sell myself, I have to sell my work to the presenters, and we talk about ways how to get a different mindset to that, or how to find ways and find examples how to make it feel a bit more comfortable. I mean, it's still an odd situation when you have to sell your work, but maybe you can find a different approach to that.
And any of these different approaches also imply, for instance, not to apply for money, for funding?
I think it's very hard to exist without applying. Mm-hmm. And because the German art system is so much based on public funding, and when you want to realize a certain size of a production, then I think it's nearly impossible to do it without. So you can also do smaller things, solo work that you do on your own, and you can rehearse on your own, and you can rehearse outside instead of a studio, and you can present things outside any of these frameworks. But if you want to work with more people, if you want to add technical stuff, then you end up writing applications. That as a choreographer, or especially as a young choreographer, you don't look at presenters as if they were the almighty gods, or jury members as they would be like, because in this system we're all depending on each other. So me as a presenter of a festival, I'm also depending on the artists, and without them I couldn't present anything. So it's a mutual relationship. On the other hand, there are power structures that we have, and you can't deny it. You can just try to make the best out of it. And I think what also helps is the idea of I could also do something else. So in my mind, I think this is also a philosophical question for everybody. When I think I don't have to do it, I could do it differently, then I gain so much independence. In terms of, I don't know, if I don't have a car, if I don't have a high living standard, I don't have to do a job that I don't like because I'm not forced to. So when I have the freedom of choice, when I'm aware of the freedom of choice that I have in my life, in all situations, because I think I have it in all situations, and people create their no choice situations by themselves, and when I have this awareness of I could do it differently, then it helps a lot. Gives you a lot of freedom. In my situation, it depends. My curatorial practice depends quite a lot on the festival for which I am curating, and it's not in Berlin; it's in Heilbronn, and so it's a completely different situation. And I think it's a lot like that. I mean, curating Tanz im August is completely different than curating, even here in Berlin, like curating the Tanztage or the Tanznacht, and the situation in Heilbronn. It's an annual international festival that takes place in the theater of Heilbronn, and so it's an audience that is like an average city theater audience with a quite high age Durchschnitt average, and with quite a lot of people who have a quite old-fashioned idea about what dance is.
And also
it's
like
not
a high culture, Hochkultur or something.
Yeah, it's a bit an expert, maybe not so much of high culture, but in the first years I was often confronted with this classical sentence of, but this is not dance. Dance is like movement, maybe not beautiful, but at least somehow artificial movement to music. And some part of my work really was like trying to open other aspects for the audience to with the normal tool set that you have as a curator. So you offer artist talks and you write descriptions and you try to you make discussions and you make workshops for non-professional dancers, and so you have you try to open ways for a different understanding of what dance could be or could also be on the one hand, and not losing them on the other hand, because this is something that also maybe sometimes happens when you jump too far away from where your audience is, then you can't take them anymore in with you or with what you present.
So you see it also like making an impact on the context where you are, like trying also to challenge a little bit the context where you are.
Definitely. Challenging the context, challenging the audience, trying to offer them different experiences. Other physical experiences in projects, dance projects, community projects, and also intellectual, other intellectual approaches. The very international mixture is really specific. It wasn't like that like 20 years ago. And of course all the consequences that came out of all these, lots of people, lots of dancers, choreographers coming to Berlin and staying for a short while or staying for a longer while. So I would say I couldn't say this is the Berlin dance scene, or this is. It seems so broad to me in terms of aesthetics, in terms of places, in terms of people or smaller networks, sub-networks of people. It seems so broad that I think it's quite hard to get in, to keep an overview and to still know what is going on in all these places, and still there are new things popping up and people opening studios, or people trying new ways to work in a certain to develop their work in a new certain way. And to keep track of that, I find, is more difficult. Like 20 years ago, there was like, I don't know, 10 to 20 important, whatever importance is and was important, choreographers, and you went to those performances and you knew nearly half of the audience, and it was like kind of a very familiar thing. And it still feels familiar, but it's just because of the size, this changed a lot. And so I can also see that like students or people who are new in Berlin or people who I teach in these classes on financing projects and networks, what difficulties they have to orientate themselves in the system, to find out who is what and who is in which position and where can I go and how can I present my work, and so this very wide range and this enormous amount of things going on, I think is specific. And in terms of the arts, I have the feeling there's also like a little bit of a paradigm shift, and I'm not really sure where it's going to, but it seems like now we really finished this this whole wave of very conceptual and more political subjects came in from, so I think I would say last year, when there were so many things going on politically in the world, it also swept into the arts as well, with a pretty much impact. And it's also specific how many students are leaving the studies of the HZT and how they influence how they influence what is happening here and what is happening to them. And then the last thing is, in terms of cultural politics, I would say this is really an in-between situation. Like, things are going quite well at the moment, given the coalition of red, green, and with their will to develop something for the independent arts in general. And still the market situation of so many people competing in studios, in performance spaces, in production money, makes it still a hard situation, even if funding money is rising.